Welcome. I am your host, Moose Matson, a humble teller of tales. In this episode, my good friend, known only as Mr. Zarono, a man of great arcane skill and weaver of the darkest of artistries. Mr. Zarono was kind enough to allow me to tell you some of his tales. What follows are two small instances, two very similar examples of a sorcerer of the dark arts and his faithful apprentice. However, that is where the similarities end. Two men with torches groped through the ancient catacombs beneath the city of Sarnoth. One man was old, far older even than his appearance suggested. He was Yizra, the Hyborian, and he was a great wizard. The other man was young and strongly built. His name was Malak. Malak was one of Yizra's apprentices, although he was reckoned by many to have neither the talent nor intelligence to make a wizard. In the streets above, the men of Sarnoth celebrated the destruction of Ib, a neighboring city that had been populated by odd creatures, considered repulsive and inferior to men. Malak had wished to join in the celebration, but Yizra forbade him, as he had no interest in such foolishness. Yizra had witnessed the destruction of Ib, and he knew that eventually the glorious city of Sarnoth would pay a dire price for the transgression. They traveled deeper into the earth until the sounds of the riotous festival ceased to echo throughout the catacombs. All was silent, save for the splashing of Malak's clumsy stride. Malak spoke. "Are we close to the treasure, Master Yizra? This muck we trudge through clings to my boots like a great leech." "It is yet a ways from here, brave Malak, but be certain the treasure is worth the hardship." Yizra glanced down at the other man's boot. "By the way, that is a leech." Yizra stopped at an archway that marked the entrance to a deeper section of the catacombs. Runes carved in the rock caught the old wizard's attention. He studied them intently for a moment, then spoke. "Douse your torch, good Malak. Fire is no friend to those who dwell beyond this portal. We shall find our way with the magical vision granted by this potion." He produced a metal flask, and they each took a sip. For a moment all was black. Then a green glow began to illuminate the tunnel. Malak was amazed by his master's craft. His father had been wise to pay Yizra the tremendous sum required for acceptance as the old man's apprentice. Seeing the tunnels with greater clarity, Malak was disturbed by the number and size of the spiders crawling the walls and floor. In a fit of revulsion, he sought to crush a particularly large specimen under his foot, but Yizra pulled him back with surprising strength. The wizard hissed, "Fool! Would you murder the emissary of a king? Harm nothing you see in these tunnels." Yizra extended his hand to the spider and made a strange gesture, then whispered, "Forgive us, servant of Atlakuad." Malak made no comment, but thought to himself that the old wizard might be getting senile. To Malak it seemed as if they walked for hours, always deeper into the catacombs, with spiders scuttling at the fringes of his vision, and faint clicking sounds drifting from the side tunnels. The noises disturbed Malik, but Yizra seemed unconcerned. The catacombs ended at a great stone portal carved with eldritch runes and festooned with thick streamers of webbing. Yizra parted the webbing like a curtain and spoke. "Now, noble Malik, step through and view a treasure grander than the golden domes of Sarnath." Malik stepped into a gigantic hall. Massive pillars carved with ancient ruins of power stretched up 100 feet to a ceiling covered with webs and clutches of leathery egg sacs. The floor was a living carpet of spiders. The arachnids were all sizes and colors, some no bigger than a coin and jet black, others big enough to kill a house cat and covered in wild hues of yellow and purple. The spiders parted and cleared a path before a 10-foot-tall dais made of human skulls and webbing. Malik shook with terror, for resting atop it was the supreme horror of this subterranean realm, a great thing like a spider, but as big as a horse, and with a face similar to that of a man. The spider thing spoke with a harsh, rasping voice. "Greetings, Yizra, the Crimson Circle. Hast thou come to gain more of my knowledge?" The old wizard replied in an almost friendly tone. "Indeed I have, Atlakwad, son of Atlaknaka. I would know of the swarm of Nebros, and how they devour men when summoned. I would know of the depths under this realm, and the black spirits of the earth who dwell there. I would know of the sorcerer Korgath, and to what gods he gives sacrifice." Adlaquad smiled impossibly wide, his mouth full of dripping fangs. "All this I know. What hast thou brought in return?" With an arcane gesture, he pointed at the shivering Malik. "I have brought this gift, according to our ancient bargain." Suddenly, the dim-witted Malik realized his fate and turned to flee. Yizra was faster. He struck Malik in the neck with his left hand. One of his rings had a tiny needle dipped in black lotus extract, and it pierced Malik's skin. The apprentice dropped to the stone floor. Malik was awake, but his limbs paralyzed by the lotus extract. He could only scream as several of the largest spiders carried him high up the wall and cocooned him. He hung there for many days, listening to the great son of Atlak whisper arcane secrets to Yizra, while the wizard thoughtfully wrote down all that the monster spoke. Poor Malik wanted to be a wizard. Well, lessons learned. Apparently you don't need any great amount of talent, or I dare say intelligence, to make a good spider snack. Let's see how the apprentice fares in this next short tale. The old necromancer bade Alhazred to be silent, as he began to chant under his breath an invocation to the unspeakable lord of Halley. Alhazred stole a glance at the necromancer's scrolls, written in the magical tongue of lost Hyboria. The scrolls contained secrets of life, death, and the undead. In the dark of a moonless night, the two wizards sat in a graveyard on the outskirts of Alexandria, surrounded by the shallow graves of paupers and executed criminals. For protection from malevolent spirits, they had drawn around them a circle of salt, mixed with drops of their own blood. The necromancer struck flint and steel to light the wick of a stinking candle, and dusted dried tana leaves over it. Faintly glowing green smoke coiled up as the leaves sparked in the flame. Then he spoke. "Now, neophyte, watch as the power of my will flows through the smoke to stir the dead. While the candle burns, they shall know me as their master. And before it burns out, I will claim the most able as my servants, and lay the rotted carrion back to their graves with my art." The smoke from the candles sank and began to drift over the graves. To Alhazred's mind, it resembled dozens of snakes slithering across the spoiled ground. Spasms of fear ran through Alhazred as the graves erupted and began to vomit forth the dead. They rose with the moans of pain, angry at the interruption of their sleep. Their eyeless sockets held nothing but grave worms, yet they glared directly at the two wizards as they shambled toward them. The necromancer strode outside the protective circle and stood among the living dead. He gloated, "Fear them not. Though they would devour us and all the living, were they not restrained by the candle." The necromancer reached out to caress the chin of a woman who had been a beauty in life. The entire lower jaw fell away in his hands. He chuckled at Alhazred's revulsion. "Now, neophyte, tell me who is greater than the necromancer who can quicken the dead to make them as slaves." Then a sudden gust of wind blew out the candle, plunging them into utter darkness. Alhazred fumbled for flint and steel to reignite it. He heard sounds of struggle, then screams of agony from his companion. After seconds of desperation, Alhazred restored the candle's flame. In that feeble, flickering light, eyes wide with horror, he watched the dead feast on their former master. There is something to be said about boasting too much. I'll tell you this. If there's one thing I've learned about the dark arts and wizardry and forbidden ceremonies, check the weather. There might be a breeze. And as far as the young apprentice Alhazred, I foretell a memorable future. Until next time.